Hey superstars, welcome to the Get Rich Without Being a Bitch podcast, and I am your host Vanessa Shaw for this journey. We're going to be challenging some stereotypes, shattering glass ceilings, really looking at what it takes to live richly and to design a business that's going to support the life that you really want to be living. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips, tools, and strategies along the way, and I can't wait for you to join me on this journey. Hey superstars, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Without Being a Bitch. Today I want to dive into 5 personality types that just may be getting in the way of you getting ahead. Listen, as I share these, it's not uncommon for women to say, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm all of them. Or I can totally see that I'm this or that. These are here as a guide for places to look at where do you need to make some changes. They are certainly not here to make you feel bad or to feel shamed about certain aspects of yourself. And frankly, the 5 that I'm going to share, I've been them at all parts in the journey, and some of them that still creep in from time to time. But let's dig in. The 5 personality types. Control freak, the control freak. Is this something that you might find yourself describing as you? I've certainly had women, very high achieving women, honestly, quite proudly even saying that they're a control freak or they are a control freak in recovery. And what does it look like, right? The control freak needs to be involved in everything. It starts to get unnecessarily involved in perhaps all of the details of things, is always overseeing, is micromanaging, perhaps has a belief that nobody can ultimately just do it as well as she can. And so therefore delegates something and then is back. Or, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'll do it better myself and I'll keep taking it back on. Here's the thing about the control freak. Whilst these women are often incredibly capable, they're not necessarily in their zone of genius. They're taking on things at a level of detail that they probably don't need to be. So they're depleting energy from elsewhere. And most importantly, they're probably starting to frustrate their team and the people that are trying to support them, right? Not giving them the opportunities to step up and see how they can really, really help in the business. Not to mention the fact that the control freak often ends up resentful. It's like we can control, but then we start to feel burnt out. We start to feel resentful, right? And it almost goes into martyrdom. Always is down to me. So if you recognize yourself there, start to think about places where perhaps you've got to start practicing just letting go. Remember, it's one of those key mindsets. Where do you need to loosen your grip? Where do you need to start to trust other people more? Like give some really good expectations of what you want, and then let go and start to see a little bit, what's going to happen. The perfectionist. And again, women definitely have been able to, identify with this one. Big one for me as well. The way my perfectionist has shown up is twofold. So at times it was like this striving for perfection, this flawlessness. It absolutely has to be perfect. When the reality is it might have already been excellent and I'm just stressing myself out to seek perfection where perfection really doesn't exist. It's so difficult to go after. And there are very few fields where perfection is really appropriate and it exists. Equally so it was on the one hand stressing myself out, but sometimes it was almost not doing anything. Like not doing the thing because it couldn't be at the high standards I was imposing myself. So it was almost avoiding. And that might not make sense for a perfectionist, but it's shown up in 2 different ways for me. So again, it's this pursuit of perfection, this flawlessness, this really looking at all of the details. And oftentimes there's just a lot of stress that can go with it. The reality is often 80% is already good enough. And especially for a perfectionist, I'm just going to let you in on something, your 80% or your 90% perhaps is probably way better than somebody else's as well. So you've probably already got those high standards. But perfectionism leads to a lot of procrastination. It can lead to a lot of team stress, missing deadlines, unnecessary stress on you as well. The third type is the people pleaser. I think this one, many of us as women, we've been programmed, right? But brought up to think that we have to take care of everybody else. We are valued for being the nurturers, not putting ourselves first, taking care of family, of children, of other people, parents, team, clients, whatever those things are. And that's often valued in society. And I think that that's often created these traits in us where we feel like we have to be very feminine. So we have to be nice. We don't say no. Instead, we say yes to things, but then, we can actually be feeling resentful about it. We prioritize other people's vision and goals and dreams. And again, these people pleasers, I can think of many examples, but even, not having boundaries in your office, for example, that's a clear place that this often shows up with the people pleaser, is there's very wishy-washy boundaries. So it could be that you've got constant interruptions. Your clients have constant access to you. There's no time when you can actually get down and do your work, right? So team are coming in through the door, the phone's going, emails are being responded to. Again, that lack of boundaries. And it probably shows up in your personal life as well. And that leads to, as I say, a lot of, again, resentment after a while and burnout because you're just not getting ahead. So a lot of the cure there for that people pleaser is to start to tune into you first, right? It's really about putting you first and starting to prioritize yourself, getting more comfortable with that and starting to establish some boundaries. One other thing as well, actually, that I do want to say, just looking at my notes here, important things is with the people pleaser as well, is typically conflict averse. Now, I get it. Most of us probably don't like conflict anyway, but this is really avoiding, right? Avoiding having those difficult conversations. Again, if somebody is not supporting you in your team, you might avoid having that conversation. You start to care more about their well-being and everything else over and above the performance in your business and how that person is contributing to your business and to your vision, right? And again, it's the priorities are skewed. So think about that if that one might be you. The next one, the adrenaline junkie. This one was definitely me. Always had to be on, always had to be busy, love a sense of urgency. Even to this day, I tend to walk pretty fast. That's what people notice about me. I walk quickly, tend to be pretty purposeful. But there was a time when I would swear I was fueled by adrenaline. So I would leave things to the last minute that would cause chaos. Right? It would cause that burst of adrenaline. I would even tell myself that's what I needed to do in order to perform and to get things done. You may have heard that, right? Some people say, but I need stress to get a certain amount done. Stress, when it's constantly fueled by chaos behind the scenes and adrenaline, is really not helpful long term. It really isn't. And it's not been uncommon for me to see women that have, stayed up for hours in the night because they've left things too late for that, shot of adrenaline. And then they're finding themselves getting sick and then really wondering how they can perform. But again, for you, it's always about that rush and using that to fuel you. For team as well, it can be really, really difficult to follow, to keep up, to understand what the direction is. Are we constantly putting out fires because of this need for adrenaline? And instead, we're not working through things more systematically, actually having processes to follow and having less fires, frankly, so that there can be actually space for more creativity, more thoughtfulness, and doing some really great work. And then the last, but certainly not least, the drama queen. So from a team perspective, things can get a little tricky with the drama queen. Do people start to doubt what you're saying because they've had that experience of things being exaggerated? So is there really a fire? Is it smoke? Or is there nothing? So that can happen because they've had that experience of things being perhaps blown out of proportion before. Particularly if you have a tendency to get a little emotional and then perhaps a little emotionally volatile with some of that drama and chaos. Again, other people around you might not feel as safe. They might not come to you with some of the problems. They won't see you as approachable, or they're constantly working to find the good moment to come to you with those things. And of course, the drama as well after a while can get really tiring for you. So one of the ways just to start to mitigate this is if you find yourself in that space and you are prone to a little bit of drama and you engage with it, is just to start to do some reality checking. Is it really this bad? What's my more grounded way of starting to communicate this so that you can just start to take some of that drama out of things? So as always, I would love to know what's resonating for you today. Which type do you see yourself most in? Do you see a little bit of all of them? Do you have a predominance for one of them? Please drop a review. Love to hear from you. What's impactful? What are you taking away? And what would you love to hear more of? And please don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button if you are listening on YouTube so that you don't miss an episode, and on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify. I can't wait to catch you on the next one.